Thank you, Brother Rafiq, for the introduction. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Alhamdulillah for the opportunity to be here tonight. We praise Allah for gathering us together in a beautiful gathering. And we send salam to our Prophet ﷺ for imparting to us the teachings that bind us together as a community. I would like to also welcome all of our guests and scholars this weekend and to thank the organizers and volunteers who worked hard to make this weekend possible. I was invited to talk tonight about Islam as a solution from a youth perspective. In thinking about this topic, I reflected on some of the most salient problems our youth are facing in this country today. And the thought that I had is that Islam is not just the solution, but also the means to the solution when it comes to dealing with interpersonal and mental health issues in a relationship-based context. According to recent polls, these kinds of issues include conflict of identity, family conflict, experience Islamophobia and bullying, and anxiety, just to name a few. In recent years, according to ICNA, there's been a 660% increase in bullying, suicidal thoughts, and anxiety. 30% of Muslim youths are reported to hide their identity. Additionally, a study by the Yaqeen Institute for Research surveyed over 600 Muslims across the country, looking for the top 7 reasons why Muslims doubt Islam. Several of these factors included tolerance for other religious practices and judgment that they experience by Muslims in their own communities. From this research, we can begin to pull out at least one common theme, that the interactions we have with each other, both within this community and outside of it, are having serious consequences for our youth. And the relationships that we foster have meaningful impacts on the outlook they develop, their religious identity, and their health and well-being. So this includes everything from mental health and social-emotional health to spiritual health. Within the context of the Muslim community in an Islamic framework, our social-emotional health and spiritual health are closely entwined. We cannot think about our social-emotional needs without thinking about it within the context of our relationships, beginning with our relationships with Allah. And in order to tackle any of the issues I mentioned, our youth need to have a strong relationship with their parents and spiritual community, one which meets and fosters their social, emotional, and spiritual development. So to do this, we need to build a safe space where a child can learn to process their emotions and communicate them, to develop trust and build a sense of right and wrong. This all occurs within the context of trusting relationships, and essentially, these are the skills of social-emotional development that allow them to succeed socially, regulate their emotions, and navigate other relationships. This kind of teaching is key to shaping the skills and social support for youth that they need in facing their different interpersonal challenges and can be found in their connection with Allah, their relationships with their parents, and the Islamic environment that we strive to provide. In the childhood development field, theorists have defined our primary relationships with those closest to us as an enduring bond that we can't necessarily see, but is organized in the mind and serves to meet our emotional needs and provide protection and comfort in times of distress. They term this concept as attachment. And ideally, a secure attachment is one in which these needs are met most consistently. In a secure attachment, there are 3 ideal qualities that the field identifies: sensitivity, reliability, and responsiveness. I'm sure that almost every parent in this room can think of a time when their child was very upset about something, but that in the grand scheme of things to us, wouldn't necessarily be seen as a big deal. But in those moments, for them, was probably the most distressing thing in the world. In a youth perspective, they may encounter, for example, people who tell them to go back to their own country, or tell them they should take the hijab off or not call themselves Muslims anymore because they're not doing it right. There are times when our youth and children perceive experiences differently than we do. We may not think they're making the right decisions, and everyone is at a different stage. But having that sensitivity means acknowledging their perception of the experience and where they are, helping them to identify how it made them feel and process it, and letting them know that we are the ones they can trust and rely on. Developing a secure enough attachment with our kids means showing them that we can respond to them when they reach out to us for guidance about these things with gentleness and mercy. And in an Islamic framework, we are already given a model for this kind of attachment. Research on Islamic spiritual attachment, though it's still currently limited, also identifies these qualities that we can each learn to recognize. These concepts are directly connected with what Allah tells us about Himself, His qualities, His love and nearness to us during hardship especially, and His guidance in the Quran for maintaining a constant connection with Him even when things are going well. So remember me, and I will remember you, is what He tells us in Surah Al-Baqarah. When we read through the Quran, we find many places throughout it where Allah teaches us about His attachment with us. He tells us of His nearness to us when He says in Surah Qaf that He is closer to us than our jugular veins. And in Surah Al-Baqarah when He says, "When my servants ask you concerning me, I am indeed close to them. I listen to the prayer of every supplicant when he calls on me." So in these couple ayahs alone, we can reflect on Allah's responsiveness to our calling on Him. He's eager to respond to us. He hears our call and He knows what is in our hearts when no one else does. He tells us directly that He will answer us and that He is the one that we can trust and rely on the most. We're made aware of Allah's sensitivity to us in our times of distress when He describes Himself as Ar-Rahman, the most merciful, Al-Ghafur, the most forgiving, Al-Wadud, the loving, and Al-Latif, the gentle. In fact, the attributes that Allah uses are in the Arabic superlative form, meaning that He's not just describing Himself as one with mercy, but the one with the most mercy, the one who's most forgiving, most gentle, and most loving. Additionally, Allah teaches us how to maintain this spiritual connection in a way that serves as a protection for us in everyday life. We find comfort and ease in knowing our burdens are not ours alone, as He tells us in Surah Al-Baqarah that He does not give us more than we can bear. And in Surah Inshirah when He says, with every difficulty comes ease. These important concepts are even repeated through the Quran so that we note their significance. When we're in sujood, closest to Allah, when we're searching for khushu, the sweetness and sincerity in our prayer 5 times a day, we're seeking peace. We unburden ourselves knowing that ultimately Allah is the one taking care of it all. He says in Surah Al-Imran, "Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakeel." Allah is sufficient for us, and He's the best disposer of affairs. So through His attributes and His divine word, Allah teaches us that His closeness is the ultimate demonstration of the qualities of a secure attachment. That is sensitivity, reliability, and responsiveness. This spiritual connection is the ultimate means of meeting our emotional needs, finding the comfort, love, protection, and guidance when we need it most. The social sciences tell us that religion is one of several factors in an individual's life that may aid in mitigating the risk for psychological or social challenges. In the eyes of a Muslim, this works through that same strong spiritual attachment with our Creator and maintaining it as much as we can through the ups and downs of everyday life. I want to point out here that this kind of spiritual attachment is a starting point for mental health and social-emotional health. There are many youths, many Muslims around the country and around the world whose mental health risk is great enough to require therapy. There is still a stigma surrounding mental health across cultures and in society, and oftentimes is not taken as seriously as physical illness. Alhamdulillah, today we are seeing a greater number of clinical professionals who have an understanding of both our religious and cultural upbringing and who are able to help. It is important that we recognize that by seeking their support, we are active participants in our own health. We are having sabr by both having patience and persevering through seeking solutions and guidance. So how do we help our youth develop this relationship with Allah that can aid in their social emotional growth? It's not just what we do, but how we do it. By embodying the reliability, sensitivity, and responsiveness, by teaching about these qualities in our attachments and their spiritual attachments, we foster an understanding that they are not alone in the challenges they face, that they can turn to Allah to guide them. Equally important to this is creating the safe space I spoke about before, in which these aspects of secure attachment are found in their spiritual community as well. This serves as a means of social support, another protective factor mentioned in the field. By establishing emotional bonds with our youth, that gentleness and mercy, we establish the trust that is so critical to their awareness of the support that is already embedded in an Islamic way of life. And that when we can reach out and meet their emotional needs, they won't have to try to seek it from something or someone else. As the role models, caregivers, and teachers of the next generation, we are in a unique position to guide our youth in addressing the daunting situations they may encounter. We've been given an amana, we've been entrusted with the task of teaching through words and by example the spiritual attachment and guiding its development in our youth, teaching them to recognize those three qualities it can provide. We have been given the duty of creating and maintaining a safe space, a community our youth can identify with and be active and mutual participants of. We're the ones to give comfort, protection, and mercy, and have them work alongside us, just like my CAMA is doing, in strengthening the kind of community they need. We are the ones who can encourage our youth to seek out the clinical support of therapists when they need it. So by thinking about our relationships with our youth as a means to nurturing their social, emotional, and spiritual development, we have an incredible potential to guide and strengthen them. And first, we must reflect, recognize, and refocus our interactions to build the groundwork for support and begin to address things like identity, conflict, and bullying. Jazakallah khairan for taking the time to think about this with me. Whatever good I've said tonight is with Allah's guidance, and if I misspoke, I ask that Allah forgive me and continue to increase me and all of